despite understanding and despite realizing the differences in the cultural systems of the Indic civilization and the Abrahamic civilizations, it is ultimately quite depressing and distressing to see this polarization between the communities. So, what measures can we take to bridge these gaps that have now emerged between the Hindu and the Abrahamic communities?
See, the divide is not of our making. It's not of our making. It's their making. The only difference now between, let's say, 20 years ago and now, and as somebody who's been in public life for a long time and very often fought these battles very alone, because at that time, without social media, we didn't even have platforms to articulate it. Now Hindus are standing up and saying, no, we refuse to be demonized. When I started doing it, for example, I used to be very often invited to lecture in American universities. By the way, I had promised myself I will never go and study under the white men and women. I will never go and study in Oxford, Harvard, anywhere under their discipline. And I will also not go and take a job for which I'll have to be beholden to them and do what they expect of me. I'll go and lecture if they want me. I won't even seek that. But thanks to Manushi, because he was very pro-poor, pro-women, pro-this, pro-that, they all mistook us for feminists, leftists, this, that. I was, in that sense, if I was pro-poor, it was from a Gandhian perspective, not from a leftist. Leftists only talk about the poor, don't do anything for them. Whereas Manushi did a lot of hands-on work to strengthen the rights of vulnerable groups or for women. So I used to be invited often. However, once they understood that I was not a Tista Setalvad, I was not into Hindu bashing, I'm not going to play the game that Arundhati Roy does for venom and hatred on her own country, then those invitations stopped. So clearly they don't invite people to come and enlighten them about what's happening in India. They only invite you to join the India bashing, Hindu bashing production factory. That's what you're supposed to become, which is why I had to pull back and say, don't need your invitations. I can live without them. And since I didn't really ever want a job there, I couldn't care less. But if your whole career graph is, how do I manage to get a foothold in an American university or a British university? People are willing to sell their soul. Now, you said this divide. The divide is not of our making. The divide is because they want Hindus to become self-hating. And those of us who are saying, no, thank you. We don't deserve your hatred. We don't deserve to be wiped out from the surface of this earth. We want the right to live as self-respecting Hindus, and we want to protect our civilization from these invading ideologies, be it from the West or the Islamic variety. They think we are turning aggressive because they're not used to being questioned. They're not used to, they especially post-independence India, because the Congress and the left ensured that the intellectual class grew up to be intellectual slaves and dhimmis of Islam and of the Christian West. They can't stomach the idea that many of us are saying, no, thank you, this is not acceptable to us. It's not as if we've started killing them. It's not as if even one Muslim has been prevented from practicing his or her religion. The number of churches in India has grown exponentially. In Delhi alone, in my childhood, there used to be only 4 churches. Today, there are at least 4,000, if not more, small and big. They are expanding, and they hate it if people resist conversions. Similarly, there were very few mosques in India when in 1947 there was a certain number. Most of them built over temples. They can't stand it if we as much say that it was wrong for these sacred mandirs to have been destroyed and converted into mosques. They think we are turning hateful. So for them to destroy temples is their right because it's their mazhabi duty. But for us to say no, we have a right to our sacred spaces. We have a right to practice our own faith traditions. They think we are turning hateful. So this divide is not of our making. We haven't gone and blasted mosques, and we have not gone and blasted. Only one sacred mandir has been reclaimed, that too through the Supreme Court, through 500 years of struggle. If they had any shame, they should have offered, because India has allowed Muslims to build so many new mosques. They could well have said, okay, as a gesture of goodwill, you allowed Muslims to stay in India despite partition, despite Hindus being driven out of Pakistan. We allowed, the Muslims of India were quite happy that there was total ethnic cleansing of Hindus in Pakistan. They never protested. We've allowed Muslims to flourish. There were only 9% at the time of partition in India. There were only 9% Muslims. Today, they may be 25%. That's what they're claiming. 20%, 25%. They're exploding. The number of mosques in India outnumbered the number of temples in India. And yet, they say they're victimized. They can run their mosques, they can run their madrasas, they can churches. Hindus don't have the right to their temples even. Now, are we to just erase our existence in order to bridge this divide? That's the only way they believe we can bridge the divide. Become self-hating, be prepared for conversions. Don't resist conversions, give them veto power over everything. If they don't like X, we accept it. They think their personal law, Muslim personal law, is above the constitution and the law of the land, so be it. Of course, your Allah said so. If they expect that kind of slavery, that if they spit on our face and we say thank you, which is what they used to do, by the way. These used to be Islamic mandates, that if a Muslim spits on the face of a Hindu, we must open it and swallow it. Now, they expect the same slavery. Are we supposed to all become Shashi Tharoors? Are we supposed to all become Arundhati Roys and want India to turn into another Pakistan? I mean, then what you're saying is, so this divide can be bridged only when they stop conversions, they accept our right to be, they accept that we have a right to teach. They don't even allow us to teach yoga in schools because it's Hindu. It'll make you fastest yoga. Sanskrit, they won't allow to be taught. When there was to be a Sanskrit department in JNU, they created hell and they kept it starved of funds. Whereas there was Arabic department, Persian department, French department, blah, shla, every foreign language. We couldn't study Sanskrit in JNU. It was supposed to be turning us into fascists. They've demonized even our sacred languages. I'm sorry. This better now be, we better be prepared for battle. Battle is first and foremost an intellectual battle, and not be losers anymore. We've suffered enough, genocide after genocide. Jews suffered one genocide in Germany. They've not let the world forget it. Before that, there used to be only small pogroms. Yes, bad, but only pogroms. One major genocide, 6 million dead. How many genocides we've had? Not only 1947, Bangladesh war, 3 million, mostly Hindus massacred. Before that, it's estimated that at least 80 million Hindus were massacred at different points. through these invasions. The British did their own genocides here. The Portuguese did their own. We can't go on saying, okay, we offer ourselves for more slaughter or conversion. So don't worry about the divide. Finally, Hindus are waking up, finding a voice. You and I are able to talk to each other thanks to social media, thanks to the internet. We never had a voice. We never had a platform. Mainstream media shut us out. Academic tracks shut us out. Research agendas shut us out. School curriculum demonized us. In our own country, we are demonized, even in our own school textbooks. The only platform we found is the social media, and they can't stand it. They can't stand it. They better be prepared for war. And I wish Prime Minister Modi and BJP would be more supportive of the Hindu causes. It's very important. And this Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, he's tried it. Gandhi tried. Gandhi could not win over their hearts. They continued, and they created a partition with a Gandhi-like leader at the helm of Congress, right? Could he win over Jinnah's heart? No. Nehru gave them all they wanted and more, and yet they, created mini Pakistan. They used it to create more mini Pakistans in India. No more Islamization of India, no more Christianization of India. You've got the rest of the globe. We've got a small place, and please allow us. This small place, we don't want to live at their mercy anymore.
Yes, ma'am. Very true. The Hindu community should not be victimized anymore. It should not be targeted. It should not be made the subject of any kind of hatred, because we have suffered enough, and I do not think nobody, rather, from the Indic community thinks that this should continue in any shape or form.
1300 years of genocide after genocide.
Very true, ma'am.
And the brutality. See, nowhere else in the world, the brutality matches the brutality of what Islam did to Hindu, Muslim. What they're doing in, ISIS land. Slaughter in the most brutal manner. Abduction, rapes, turning women into sex slaves. They did it on a grand scale for 1300 years. The British bled us to death. They came here at a time when India was the leading economic power of the world, despite the loot of previous 800 years by Islamists. So think of how much wealth has gone looted out of this country. Think of it. It's mind-blowing. Even when the British come, we were the leading industrial power of the world, producing nearly 30% of the global GDP after being looted by Islamic invaders for 800 years. How much more loot are we going to allow? And how much, and mind you, those you exploit most are the ones you hate most. If we want to be loved, well, stop being victims, stop being passive, and stop being exploited. That's the only way we will win their respect, and stop bothering about their bloody certification. I don't care how they certify India. I would say, call us what you will. We do what is good for India and what's good for the Hindu civilization's survival. Does China care? And does anybody dare take panga with China? No. It's because we care too much about their certification that they use this weakness, even in Modi ji, to demean him, to defame him, to demonize him, because they think that we'll turn defensive and then we'll be easy to manipulate. No more of that game. No more being defensive. No more accepting them as the certifying authority. It's time we created our own yardsticks for self-certification.
Definitely, ma'am. Thank you so much for saying that. And with this, I would like to conclude by saying thank you so much, Madhuji, for joining us on our show. We are truly honored to have you here. It was genuinely a pleasure to host you on our platform. Namaste and dhanyawad.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.